how to get your first 1,000 YouTube subscribers. Join our Patreon page now. Link in the description. So I'm always happy, as I said, we met so much great, amazing puppeteers all around. And it's always a good, like, I'm bubbling right now. I'm just like, yay, another podcast. So I just want, before we go into the interview, ask you about like from where you're watching the podcast. I always love to have a little click. I'm watching you from India, like Asia, whatever. You are in the US, wherever, just write it down on the side so we will smile on this international puppetry meeting. So yeah, this is one thing. And I want also to let you know that we have this workshop coming, not this weekend, but the next one. And I will just drag the beautiful live puppet workshop, children like web series, how to do it with low cost. And it's Danny, Joe Labrec, who have this wonderful expertise, and you have done it like from scratch. And it's really good children's show. So I really want everyone to gather and just watch this. So have a look on the Patreon. It's a member thing. So it's for the member. So I really want to encourage people to have a look on this. And yes, so that's the commercial. So now I want to make sure I don't forget anything, but I'm not alone in this adventure. I have also Eli, my boyfriend, who do some tips to help puppeteers to promote themselves online, how to post, how to like use tools to make our job more known. So be free to also look the tips. You have like kind of on the Patreon tips to help. So yay! So yeah, we have Preventive who is there and watching. So hi Connor. Hi everyone from Tennessee also. So now it's time for interview because we have someone amazing, and I would just bring her in the screen. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Pam Arciero.
Oh, thank you. Hello,
Hey.
Nice to see you. Wonderful to be here.
Thank you very much to be part of this exchange of passion about puppetry.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for, right?
Yes. So you are now in Connecticut.
Correct. I live in Connecticut all year, pretty much. The Oneill is in Connecticut. I work in New York when I work on Sesame Street, and most of the jobs that I do with television is in New York. But I live here basically. Occasionally I work in Hawaii too, but not all the time anymore.
Yeah. It's a different climate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I want like just to introduce, I always like when the puppeteer introduce herself to the crowd. So Sesame Street, like people are maybe really curious.
Yeah.
Just to drop that. So for the one who don't know you. Maybe.
Okay, I'm Pam Arciero. I am a puppeteer on Sesame Street is my main job. I play Grangetta Grouch, Oscar's girlfriend, and I have since 1983, which is a really long time. I have worked with a lot of the greats at Sesame Street. I've been very honored to work with Jim Henson and Richard Hunt and Jerry Nelson, and they were all also my really good friends. And of course, the great Carol Spinney. Just so sad that he's not with us. And now we have a really great young crew coming up at Sesame, and I'm very proud to be a part of Sesame Street still. We're finishing shooting season 51 at this point, and talking about season 52, which, you know, in this time frame, we don't know how that's going to be done exactly, but we do know we will be going ahead and going forward with more Sesame Streets, which is really exciting. I also direct. I direct walk-around shows, which are the big characters. I direct the dance performance sides of it, and the vocal records. I record the talent doing the vocals from the original Sesame Street show, and then I put those shows in for Beaches and for SeaWorld and for Sesame Place. I'll go and help them load the shows in. And of course, that's going to be really complicated this year because I don't know if they're going to let us even go to Turks and Caicos in Jamaica, right? I'm supposed to put a show in September. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm also the director of the National Puppetry Conference at the Eugene Oneill Theatre Center, and I have been doing that for quite a while too. I want to say 17 years, 18 years. I started with the conference. The first conference was 30 years ago. I was the guest artist at that time. And since I pretty much worked with it ever since in some format. And about 18 years ago, I became the artistic director. And it is one of the joys of my life to be able to bring puppetry to new people, to meet all the puppet artists, to bring an artist in to show how you think about puppetry, how your process works, and then be able to share that with other puppeteers and other people learning to be puppeteers. It's a fantastic opportunity, and I truly appreciate that. I work all year on it. It's 2 weeks, usually in June. This past year, we just did a 5-day online version that was actually much more successful than I thought, because so much of puppetry is tactile. So much of puppetry is what we touch and what we move. And so to do it with this wall of this screen here between all of us, how do we make that work? And then how do we develop a sense of community? Because that's the other thing the Oneill does, is it creates community between puppeteers. You know, you have a puppet. If you have a question about shadow puppets, you know you can call Jim Nappy because you met him at the Oneill. You know, it's that kind of connection that I was worried we were not going to have. Anyway, so that's what I do. I'm originally from Honolulu. My undergraduate degree is in dance and my graduate degree is in puppetry. And I came from Hawaii to study puppetry, and then I auditioned for Jim Henson, and I was lucky enough to be accepted into the company at that point in time. So it's been a very charmed existence for me. I love international puppetry. I go to festivals, any international festival that will ask me or have me or let me buy a ticket to, I will generally go. Again, COVID is like changing all of that. So we'll see what happens next year. But I pretty much love any form of puppetry and have tried to learn all of them, at least kind of well. I mean, probably what I do best is television, but and I think that's enough about me.
But that's an amazing journey, as you said, like all of this getting together all around puppetry at the Oneill, and it's really wonderful.
Yeah, thanks. It's been, like I said, a charmed existence. I'm really lucky. I'm a very lucky person. So
yeah, and we wish every puppeteer to just get lucky too. But I want to know the famous question that I always ask: why do you cherish this art of puppetry?
I think because there's a couple reasons. One of them is kind of selfish on my part, which is as a puppeteer, I can play any character I can think of. No one is going to see what I look like. Don't look like a middle-aged woman. I can be a little girl. I can be a boy. I can be a dog. I can be a frog. I can be a cat. I can be whatever I want, because you don't see me. You see it through the object. Yeah. And I think that's a real gift. And then the other part of it is that it allows us to not be so tied into reality. It allows us, our imaginations, to breathe and move and gain air and become something else, something not of this world necessarily. And the puppet is not of this world. We can make it of this world, but generally speaking, the puppet is not of this world. The puppet is someplace else. And that's the real thing I love, is being able to go from here to anywhere in the universe with a puppet.
Yes, it's so much freedom. I totally agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The next is about the crush. I always want to know, how did your crush for puppetry happen? Does he have a specific moment?
Well, kind of, I do. I was studying dance at the University of Hawaii, and my undergraduate degree, of course, is in dance. But a man came to teach puppetry at the University of Hawaii named Kermit Love. And he was the man who built Big Bird and designed the Snuffleupagus and a whole bunch of other puppets. And so, out in Hawaii, we didn't get a lot of opportunities for people like that. So here was this person coming, and even though I was in dance, I was still in drama and doing some other theater things. And a couple of my girlfriends in dance said, you know, we're going to take this puppet thing. You want to do it with us? And I went, okay. And I went, and here was this amazing man. He was originally a costume designer. He always brags about having put the platform shoes on Carmen Miranda. And he went from costume design to building giant puppets. That's kind of where he ended up. His name was Kermit Love, and we all just called him Kermit the person. You know, he met Jim Henson in an elevator because their doorman knew that Jim Henson did Kermit the Frog. And they said, you know, there's a Kermit person in the building, and we think you should just meet him for that. And then when they met, they realized how much they had in common, and Jim encouraged Kermit Love to come and work for the company. So he came and he taught me about puppets. He made me fall in love with puppets. He talked about the art of the puppet and how you can make a puppet breathe, and how puppets can say things that no one else can say, and that it's a long-standing art form. And he sort of gave us a history of how puppets have influenced people since forever, since caveman times, you know, since sitting in front of a fire and there's shadows on the wall, you're going to start telling a story with those shadows. So he opened the whole world for me. It was like a bomb dropped. And suddenly I realized that's exactly what the rest of my life was going to be at that moment with Kermit. And we did a show, and I studied with him all that summer. And then he came back the following summer, and I was finishing my degree, and I studied with him again. And it was just the best. So he and Carol Spinney had come to visit in Hawaii a couple of times. They both encouraged me to come to New York, which at that time from Hawaii, it's a long ways away from home. You know, yeah. It's 10,000 miles away from home. So I hemmed and hawed and decided, yes, indeed, that's what I wanted to do. But the safety of going to a university program as opposed to landing in New York and trying to figure it out appealed to me, and especially to my parents. So I went to the University of Connecticut, which fortunately had three degrees, even then, back in 1978 or 9.
Yeah.
Had 3 degrees in puppetry, which is pretty rare. So I went and got an MA in puppetry there. I worked on it along with some other really great puppeteers who've all come out of there too with us. And when I wasn't in school, I was going down and visiting Kermit Love at his studio, Great Jones Studio, down in New York, and walking around the set of Sesame Street with him and watching what he was doing, and always going, this is so cool. Always doing that. And he was a challenging person. He was a brilliant man, and he just totally taught me how to love the art form of puppetry in all its many manifestations. So I'm very grateful for that.
That's so great to have someone who could like just take your hand and just look at this. And
yeah, that's what he did.
That's amazing.
He did.
Whoa. And I want to know about like the path of study, like in your opinion, because we have the UConn University, but right. Maybe you have your opinion about what would be the best field of study. Like you start dance, maybe dance is part of your career also in terms of movement.
Well, because puppetry at its core is often about movement.
Yeah.
I think that dance is a very good place to start, but puppetry is also about acting and singing and understanding character. So it is a combination of all the arts, which is one of the things I love about puppetry. Mm-hmm. You can be a great singer and a terrible puppeteer. You can be a great actor and an awful puppeteer. You can be a great puppeteer and a terrible singer. I mean, it works all those ways. Mm-hmm. But as a puppeteer, you try to be the best you can at all of the arts, because you will be required to sing at some point, and you're going to act like a character. You have to act and be believable and lovable and hateable and all those things that characters are. You have to be able to make a scene work. You have to be able to drive the scene and understand the beats of the scene, just like any actor would, and do it well, because you have to do it through a puppet, through another character, not just yourself, but through another, vassal. So, and then comes the creative, the art, the plastic side of it, right? You have to learn how to build Usually, most puppeteers don't. I have a luxury now that puppets are built for me at Sesame Street. I don't have to build them myself. But when you start out, you have to build them yourself. Yeah. So, the art side comes into it, the craft side of it, the making, the sewing, the designing, the figuring out what your character should look like. So I think in a lot of ways, puppeteers are Renaissance people. They are the ones who have to do everything in order to make it work. You kind of have to have a little bit of everything. You have to be, a jack of all trades, and as they say, master of none. Not quite true, but a jack of all trades. You need to be able to touch on all those different areas. Or, like for me, if I know costuming a puppet may not be my forte, I can do an okay costume, but then maybe I'm going to call up Polly Smith, who I think is one of the most incredible puppet costume builders, and she'll build a costume for me if I ask her and tell her exactly what I need. So, why was I saying? So anyway, it is a complicated process, and it's kind of unfair because you don't expect actors to write their own scripts and you don't expect actors to make their own clothes, but somehow with puppeteers, you do.
Yeah, you need to have a little of everything. You need to just be aware of all the thing part of the job. That's great. And do you have your own definition of a puppet?
I do think the bottom line is a puppet is an inanimate object made animate. So it could be anything. What we do as puppeteers is breathe life into whatever that is, whether it is a teapot or a cup of coffee or a beautifully designed marionette or a hand puppet. Or, that is our job. As a puppeteer, your job is to sell the life in this creature, this thing. And it can be anything. Yeah. But you, as a puppeteer, can make it live and breathe. And that is my definition of a puppet.
Yes. It's a lot of intention to put into the object.
Right. Yeah. Whatever the object is. It can be any object. It's you figuring out how that object lives and breathes and thinks and moves and wants and doesn't want and walks through the universe. That's your job, That is your job as a puppeteer, which is always fascinating and delightful to get to that bottom line and figure that out. I find that's my joy.
Yeah, but I think it's kind of philosophy a bit. Like, do you think all of this kind of intention about the object help a puppeteer to define himself as a human being, or like?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the reason we do it, right? We're talking about ourselves. Everything we do talks about ourselves. That's why that's life. So when you do breathe life into that puppet, you are breathing your life into that puppet. You're breathing your attitudes and your understanding. Even if it's not a character that's necessarily like you. Grangetta, who I play, is a complete grouch. And most people will tell you, I'm not incredibly grouchy. I can be, but not all the time. But she is absolutely always grouchy. So, finding that balance of who that person inside of you is and bringing that back out, that is what we do,
Yes, it's really cute also to think in terms of like difference and just create something that you're not, as you said at the beginning.
To walk that bridge over to the other side is really what you do, right? From whatever your comfortable space is, you get on a bridge and walk over to that other character to find out who they are and what their needs are and how to love them. Because the bottom line is it's about love. It's about love of that character. Because even if they're a terrible character, even if they're evil, even if they're someone who's supposed to be doing terrible things, there is still love in the center of that character. It is still love that is motivating most people to do whatever they do, even when it's not good, even when it's terrible things. It's a lack of understanding maybe, but there still is at the core that need in that understanding. So
I love this. That's so beautiful. And do you think our art, like puppetry, is in an ascension right now?
Well, having been a puppeteer for over 40 years at this point in my life, there's always times where it seems like there's a ton of puppetry and then it sort of goes quiet again. And I do think at this point in time, we are sort in an uprising. I think that we are in the part of the spiral that is going up and up.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much, one of the things is that there's so much more information. When I was a young puppeteer, it was impossible to find out how to build a marionette. Even from the book, you'd sit there staring at it and just go, I can't figure out how to string this. But you can go online. You can meet people across the world who will help you figure out the stringing and the balance of a marionette, figure out how to make that puppet. So I do think we are in ascension because of the media that we have available to us. And I think also the fact that there is something tactile and 3D about puppets, and that is what's selling everything to me right now. You know, when you see a flat cartoon character, like say Mickey Mouse, you know, he's flat. You know, Mickey Mouse is not going to come off that page and hug you and hold you. When you see Kermit the Frog, you know there's a chance if you met that frog, he might give you a hug, or he might shake your hand, or he might jump on your shoulder and go for a walk with you. That is something a flat cartoon character can never sell you. You will never believe that character is going to do that. And when you see those giant walk-arounds at the parks, it's kind of like, oh, okay. And you step away, you know, because it's not real. There is something about the three-dimensional value that it brings that is absolutely different than any other character format in terms of animation goes to me. You know?
Yes, that's true. And it's so like lovable, this 3D thing. You just like you attach more and more. But do you feel like we reached the full potential of puppetry, or is still have room for...
One of the gifts and delights about puppetry is simply that you are always learning, you are always growing. And so is the art form. You know, a few years back when computer-generated characters came in, everyone said, oh, puppetry's over. They're never going to do puppets again. They can do it on the computer. Why do they need you? And so then you had, my favorite example is always the Star Wars. You had Yoda in the first Star Wars, who was a puppet and everybody adored and loved. And then they went ahead and created a CG Yoda, and everybody thought it was creepy and weird and wanted nothing to do with it because it had too many movements in its face and it's going, and you were just like, no. So they went back to the puppet. Now, it's not that we don't enhance a little bit. There are things you could do with computer enhancement in puppets in film, which I think is fascinating. You know, if you wanted individual finger movement, you could take forever to build a mechanism that would do that on an actual puppet. Or you could hold up a hand, the puppet hand, and then animate that with computer-generated animation. And then you have the marriage of the puppet and the animation. And you don't know where it begins and ends, and it's much more believable if that's what you're selling. And then the other thing is every puppeteer makes the art form better. Every puppeteer finds something new. Every puppeteer adds themselves to it. And it is a continually growing and expanding horizon for me, just to know more and more people, hear their voices, hear what they want to tell you, what's inside of them and what's coming out through whatever puppet form they're taking. And also because there are so many puppet forms and we're learning all the time about how we can use shadows in a different way, how we can use rod puppets in a different way, how we can use string puppets entirely different way. So I think that puppetry is never going to reach the top. It's always going to be growing. It's always moving upward, and we're learning more and more and more as we go. Always.
Yeah, I love it. So optimistic. It's I believe that too. It's really true. And where do you see puppetry art in 10 years?
10 years. Well, you know, COVID has changed so much of how we look at things.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe could be part of the question.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, you know, like even thinking in terms of when do we go back to the theater? What if we don't go back for 2 years? What happens? Do people forget about how live theater feels or why it was important? I mean, we get a lot of needs filled with this right here, right? What we're looking at. We're getting a lot of our needs met for that kind of entertainment.
Yeah.
So what happens? I mean, my hope is that in 10 years, we will be fully on doing regular touring with puppets, live puppet shows everywhere, and theater, and being able to visit and sit next to each other and enjoy a show and clap. And because that experience of an audience together, understanding and enjoying the same moment, is, you can't get that from a screen, right? If we're all in our individual homes, we know we're enjoying it pretty much at the same time, but it's not like the roar you hear from an audience when they laugh all together, or when there's a sob, a gentle sob in the middle of an audience because of something really moving. So I hope in 10 years, we have a good combination of both. I hope that there still is wonderful puppet films and television for people to see. And I hope that we'll have flourishing theaters everywhere where people can go and enjoy a genuine group theater experience with puppets. I would love to see that both of those things are flourishing and moving forward. You know, in previous time, I might have thought about more fanciful out there things, but at this point in time, I just want our stuff back. I just want us to go to the theater together. I just want to sit in the theater. You know, it seems simple, but the times are very hard on us. They really are. The times have driven us into a whole new way of thinking about things. Not necessarily bad, but we have to consider, you know, where we'll be and what we'll do in that time. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, we have to be smart and grow and try to find our own expansion in this, even if we don't have the live thing. But that's a sad thing. Maybe we could take a question from the audience. Oh, yeah, it's one about kids, but kids and adults. Puppets are great to teaching kids. How about puppets teaching adults?
Hi, Howard. I think they're great at teaching adults. I think it depends on the subject matter. I think you could approach some really difficult subjects with a puppet and people will accept it from them that you would not maybe accept from a human being talking to you that way. I mean, that was always sort of the case with Oscar. You know, he could say almost anything and people would buy it. And if a human turned to you and said, "Scram, get out of here, you're bugging me," you would think, "Wow, what a terrible person." But if it was Oscar, you just go, "Oh, Oscar," and it taught you kind of a sense of you know, understanding and let you be a little grateful for who you are and understanding who that person is and let them have their space to be who they are. So I do think puppets definitely could teach adults. I think that's not a problem whatsoever. I think it depends on the subject matter, you know.
Yeah, it's always a viewpoint, how we bring the viewpoint of the puppetry in front of adults. That's true. And I always try to educate people. No, but have you seen for adults? And a lot of people don't know. Like,
well, in North America, it's unknown. I mean, in Europe and in other cultures, puppetry is for adults. You know, it is a normal adult thing. It's not just for kids to go. It's for the whole family, or it's specifically adult. So it's just kind of re-educating all of us here in this part of the world.
Yeah, we have a lot of job to do.
Yes, it's a lot of work. Definitely.
And for the conclusion, I always ask the puppeteer if you have like a fellow friend around.
Let me see who I can dig up here. Little challenging sometimes, just to.
Yes, and yes, with that. But you are used to television. How it's like invert.
Well, I don't know if this is inverse, actually. I didn't double check. And that's my rule, always to flip the camera. And I don't think I did that, because as television puppeteers, we always work with it backwards. We don't correct it. I think in England, sometimes they do. But in order for the words to go with Sesame Street, right, for the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s to be in the right direction, you have to flip the camera. It's not a mirror. It's the opposite of a mirror. So let's see what this is. Are you on? Not quite. Okay. This is Leona.
Hi.
Leona and I were in television for a long time together on a show called Between the Lions.
I miss it still.
Oh.
Me too. We did some good teaching about reading and what's going on.
I just love being in television. I love being with kids and talking about reading, and I have a brother who's really mean and talking about my whole life, but here I am.
Yeah. I love his eyes.
I love your eyes too. It's good. I spent a lot of time in a library. That's where our house was. And we were lions in a library.
And do you have a book, like a favorite book you could recommend to the audience?
I love If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. That's one of my favorites. And I like lots of kids' books. I like all the Dr. Seuss books. Those are so fun. 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish. I love those.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, lots of good books.
I love books too. It's amazing to read.
Reading's the best.
Yeah. I'm just like,
You just what? I see you over there. Where are you? You're so far away from me.
Yeah, I'm in Montreal, actually.
You are?
Yeah.
Montreal.
It's in Canada.
Is that another country? Yeah. Okay. So you're far, far away.
Yeah, we are international.
Cool. I love being an international lion. And I'm not lying. I love bad jokes, by the way.
That's fine. We could enjoy your bad jokes.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, we have people commenting your beautiful colors, Leo. Shy.
Now you're embarrassing me. Not really. I love it.
Yeah. Thank you very much, both of you.
I'm going to go lie down now. Thanks so much. Nice to see you.
Oh, so cute. That's so cute.
Thanks. She's my girl.
Yeah. It's kind of, we feel the experience also of like working with the character and really know the personality of it. It's
really, that's the plan. That's the best way it works.
Yeah. So thank you. And I want to ask you if people want to see more of your work or where they can find maybe.
I don't really have a website. Generally speaking, it's like Wikipedia or YouTube. You can look up the characters I play, Grangetta, Sesame Street. There's a lot of stuff on there. Between the Lions, there's a lot on YouTube if you look up Between the Lions. I should probably do a website. It's just I've been doing other stuff.
But the Oneill website and it's kind of
theoneill.org, sesamestreet.org. All of those just go right there and you'll find them.
Yes, amazing. Thank you very much, Pam.
So nice to meet you.
Yeah, true.
Montreal sometime soon.
Yeah. When the border open,
That'd be nice.
Canada and US will join together.
That would be good. That would be great.
Yes, totally. So thank you. Stay there. I will say goodbye to everyone and we can chat after. So thank you very much. Everyone, that was this episode with the wonderful Pam. Thank you very much for watching. And we have people from India watching us in Tennessee. So it's It's really great to connect all over the world. Have a look on the Patreon again, this workshop coming, and it's wonderful to talk about web series, how to shoot as we explore those online platforms. So stay tuned, and we have tips for promotion, for puppetry art. So I will wish you the best, and see you really soon. We have another podcast tomorrow. Bye everyone. Have a good night. Learn how to get your first 1,000 YouTube subscribers. Join our Patreon page now. Link in the description.